Hello, my name is Francisco Benitez. I'm gonna go for the review of Lab2. And just before we start, just gonna do a quick review of the hardware. It's on the README file. So basically, we're just feeding the ESP32 with the 3.3 volts that it has to the potentiometer on the left pin. Then on the right pin, we're closing the circuit to ground. And then the middle pin, we're connecting it to the GPIO32, which is gonna be our analog converter, so we can read the values of the potentiometer, and from there do different functions that are required for Lab2. Then for the output of the LED, I'm using the GPIO27, which is connected to a resistance of 330 ohms, and then the LED. And then the switch button is in the hardware of the ESP32, which is the switch 38. And then that's basically the hardware part of this circuit, which is pretty simple. From there, we're going to look at the code. The first thing we need to do is do the input of the year, month, day, weekday. Let's do it right now. So I'm just assuming that the input of the day is going to be correct. So let's do that first. So this is the date, it's the weekday, it's a Friday, and then I'm gonna put the 10-minute, second, and then microsecond. Perfect. So from there, our program is starting to run. We're using the real-time clock, so every 30 seconds it will be updating. And then just something I like to do is for the weekday names, instead of just putting a 5, I'm just translating them to a string. So 5 will be equal to the Friday. If it's Monday, will be equal to 0, so it's Monday. And that's how you can pick them out. Then from there, this is what we talked about, defining pin 32 as our input for the analog converter from the potentiometer. And then for the output, it's going to be pin 27 with the frequency and duty cycles that are described on Lab2. And for the button, it's going to be the button that is integrated in the ESP32, which is pin 38. So from there, I just did a simple FSM. We will see here all the functions. So the first function we have from the lab is to define that every 30 seconds, we print out this format of the year. As you can see, here's printing out 2026, 33, 36, and the Friday string that I mentioned. And here's an hour, minute, seconds, and microseconds. And then from here, we're also defining the potentiometer values, which is going to be updating every 100 milliseconds. Just a quick note also, here the timer 0 is being used only for this function, and here timer 1 is only being used for this function. These are the hardware timers that we have available. So we're using each independent timer, so these functions could work while the other one is working, and there's like no conflict. And then from here we have the third timer, which is the third timer, which is timer 2. So basically I'm using this timer, which is our interrupt from the button press, and then from here we're using that debounce, so it's, it doesn't detect like ones and zeros, it just detects one stable push. And then from there we're taking advantage of this debounce, and here we are changing the FSM. So if it's in the frequency control, then change to duty cycle control. If it's in the duty cycle control, then change to frequency control. It's basically a simple FSM, right? So from here, we can also go here to the demonstration now that I explained the code. So right now, if I move this potentiometer, it should not change the LED because it's in our start state. In the start state, it's not going to do anything. But once we press the button, it will start to be on one state, which is the frequency control state. So I'm going to change here the frequency. Now it's lower. And then I can move it so it can be fast. Okay, so we're in the state of the frequency control. Now I'm going to go to the state of LED intensity control. So I press this, and then as we can see, it already like dimmed out, and I can like make it dim more, or I can make it like more brighter. And once I push the button, we will go directly to the frequency control, and the frequency will change instantly. So it's there, you can see the frequency already changed. Now we can go to a slower frequency, maybe kind of like this, and then from here I'm going to control the PWM. And it's gonna look like it's not turning on because we are like in the part where like that is very dim. So you need to just understand how the variables are being used. Yeah, and also understand like what is like the logic of the code, so you can have like a understanding of how the LED is working. But yeah, basically this is Lab 2. It was very interesting. It was fun to play around with the timers and the interrupts. And yeah, this will be basically it. Any questions regarding the hardware, you can check the duty cycle, and also in the program, I'll put a lot of comments and some functions just so you can debug if anything happens.